colleague George Odell wrote, "We need one another when we mourn and would be comforted. We need one another when we are in trouble and afraid. We need one another when we are in despair, in temptation, when we need to be recalled to our best selves. We need one another when we would accomplish some great purpose and cannot do it alone. We need one another in the hour of success, when we look for someone to share our triumphs. We need one another in the hour of defeat, when with encouragement we might endure and stand again. We need one another when we come to die and have gentle hands prepare us for the journey. All our lives we are in need, and others are in need of us. This, beyond all other things, is why we worship, to collect our sometimes stumbling, often halting, hopeful, downcast, and present selves and say, will you help me a little further along? That's all it is. And that's why we are here. For all the words we say and all the rituals we go through, if we do not do this, we have failed. And if we go through none of the rituals at all and we do this, we have succeeded. And so we are a community, again, of people we know and people we don't, of friends and neighbors, strangers, who nonetheless breathe a common breath and live a common life. For that reason, we come together. Before we rise to sing our first hymn, let me give you a couple of quick announcements so you're equipped for the rest of the day and the rest of the week. After this service, is a fellowship time in the fellowship hall that's around to your left. Please do stick around, visit with one another, speak to our wonderful guest today, our speaker. Following that day and in the week to come, let's look to Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, when people of this community, new or old, can be meeting again with an end of summer gathering at Brewery Vivant. If you were there in the spring when they rolled out our brew, they're back again with more of the same. That will be Wednesday, August 28th, 5 to 8 p.m. Fountain Street or Saison Ale will be on tap along with other of their brew, along with you and good things to eat. Celebrate the end of summer. And don't forget that in about 3 weeks, or maybe 3-4 weeks, September 15th, we will be having our 150-year grand celebration. That's a Sunday. There will not only be worship and music, but food and games for young and old. I think we may even spill out onto library and just run riot in the streets. Join us that morning and all that afternoon as we celebrate our 150 years of liberal religion here in Grand Rapids. This service is next week. We'll have our last service in the chapel done at the chaplains on the Labor Day weekend. Be here for those who are not at some lake somewhere. We will envy you, but we will have a good time, I guarantee. It's time now for us to sing. 318, We Would Be One, a great favorite in this church and many others. Thank you.
Ourselves of you. Good morning and welcome to Fountain Street Church. We used to say when I was growing up here in character school, we are the people of loving hearts, welcoming hands, and open minds. I am so grateful that I grew up in this place. When I was going to some rather traditional schools, it was so important for me to have this place where I could be who I was and fully who I was and questioning who I was. So if you are any of those things, you belong here and you are welcome here. If you would please join me in the responsive reading. We gather in reverence before the wonder of life.
The wonder of this moment.
The wonder of being together, so close yet so apart.
Each hidden in our own secret chamber.
Each listening, each trying to speak.
Yet none fully understanding, none fully understood.
We gather in reverence before all intangible things that eyes see not, nor ears can detect.
That hands can never touch, that space cannot hold, and time cannot measure. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we go? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where's the mystery? Where do we come from? Where's the mystery? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going?
I don't know that I can say more of a prayer than that, but if you will join me in a moment of prayer and meditation. So we just take a moment to take a deep breath in, notice the air filling our lungs, taking a breath out and releasing some of that air that was once a part of us. Perhaps noticing the chill of the cool air conditioning on your skin, noticing those around us as we gather here in community, being aware of our connection, being aware of our presence, being aware of this beauty and this mystery. Taking a moment to come together and be grateful for what we have in our community. With that, I'd like to ask for an invitation to the offering. Here at Fountain Street Church, we are committed to changing the world, and we do this by splitting our contributions that are made in the plate. We give half of our contributions this summer out into the community to make change in the world, and we keep half of that contribution here in this community to also make change in the world. I have two readings to share this morning. The first is actually a biblical passage. It comes from Exodus 3:14, where Moses was asking to God, "What should I say to the Israelites when they ask what God has sent me?" And God said to Moses, "I am who I am." And he said, "Thus you shall say to the sons of Israel, I am has sent me to you." Our second reading is from Anne Lamont's book, Help, Thanks, Wow, 3 Essential Prayers. For a short time, we see past all that is jumbled, mysterious, marvelous, and ugly. Instead, we glimpse life, beauty, grief, or evil, love captured, and truth held up to the light. Art makes it hard to ignore truth, that life explodes and blooms, consumes, rots, and radiates and slithers, that eternity really is in a blade of grass. Jethro Tull saying the same God who made kittens also made snakes in the grass. We stand before Monet and Rothko and the Sphinx and George O'Keeffe, and we are speechless, in awe. Awe is why we are here, and this state is the prayer, wow. At the beginning of the summer, when I was asked to participate as one of the speakers for the summer series, we were reminded that this is the 150th year of celebration for this church. And it was suggested that maybe we might want to incorporate that theme into our service, either looking back or looking forward at what this church is. And I mostly ignored that, other than this talk is like me bearing my soul to you. And who I am is so influenced by this church, by growing up in this character school here, and in two experiences in particular. The first was when I was in Tower Club, which is like the 7th and 8th grade years. We did a study of major world religions, and we went to visit different places of worship. And during that experience, I started to notice these common themes and started wondering if maybe there's something that's speaking to a larger truth. The second one was when I was in 9th grade, I joined a program called Coming of Age, which radically changed my life. Before coming of age, I was this quiet, shy, reserved person who barely talked to my closest friends. After coming of age, I found my voice, I found my confidence, and I found the freedom to share who I was with the world. So years later, in college, I kind of by accident ended up majoring in chemistry, simply because I found my chemistry classes so interesting, in part because the deeper I got into chemistry, the more I saw a resonance with those earlier themes I had noticed during the Tower Club study of major world religions. And I felt like the more I understood chemistry, the more I saw it dovetailing with this spirituality and religious identity I had been developing since youth. And then because I had found my voice and I was passionate about issues in our education system and opportunity gaps, I decided to become a chemistry teacher and try to change that. And after a few years of teaching chemistry, I decided really we need to change how we teach chemistry, and I decided to go to grad school to write curriculum and change the way that chemistry is taught. While in grad school, one of the professors that I had the opportunity to work with was also trying to change the way that chemistry is taught, and she had written a chemistry curriculum for introductory undergraduates. To try and help them understand the foundations of chemistry rather than memorizing a bunch of random rules about these teeny tiny things that cannot be seen, which I think is most people's experience with chemistry. And the title of her chemistry curriculum was Chemistry, Life, the Universe, and Everything, which clearly inspired the title for my talk today. And I thought this title was brilliant for two reasons. One is there's this reference to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. If you don't know the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it is a kind of cult, farcical sci-fi book. I'm pretty sure it was induced by drugs. I know at least it was induced by alcohol. Douglas Adams, the author, has talked about this. Spoiler alert, if you haven't read it, you really should. It's pretty entertaining. But towards the end of the book, we're introduced to an alien race that is very curious and has this deep need to know. And so they build a supercomputer named Deep Thought, and they ask the supercomputer, you must tell us what is the answer to life, the universe, and everything. And the computer's like, well, give me a little bit. I'm going to have to think about that. Come back in 7.5 million years. So generations later, they return to the computer and they're like, tell us, what's the answer to life, the universe, and everything? And the computer's like, well, I have the answer for you, but you're not going to like it. And they're like, no, tell us, we must know. What is the answer to life, the universe, and everything? And the computer's like, well, it's 42. Which is clearly disappointing because what does that mean? And the computer suggests, well, maybe you need to know the question to life, the universe, and everything. And you'll have to build a different computer to figure that out. So there's this kind of fun reference to this entertaining book. But the other thing I really like about Chemistry, Life, the Universe, and Everything as a title for a chemistry course it's the people that work on this curriculum usually refer to it by the acronym CLUE, which I think is brilliant because in a lot of ways, I find chemistry as giving us a clue to life, the universe, and everything. So much can be explained by understanding some of the foundational basic principles in chemistry. In chemistry, our current model is that everything is made out of these teeny, teeny, tiny particles that are way too small to be seen. We call these particles atoms. And then these particles are made out of even smaller particles, some of which have this property that we call positively charged, and some have a property that we call negatively charged. And these positive pieces and negative pieces are attracted to each other, so they'll pull themselves closer together automatically. But positive pieces and positive pieces repel and will push each other apart automatically. Similarly, negative and negative repel. So much of what we can observe in the universe can be explained by understanding these interactions between the positive and negative pieces. For example, these atoms combine together to form molecules like water, H2O. It's two of these hydrogen atoms bonded with one oxygen atom. And the only thing that is making the bond is the fact that this atom's positive pieces are attracted to this atom's negative pieces. So they are pulled together. If they get too close together, though, the positive pieces in this one will repel the positive pieces in this one, and the atoms will push back apart. So there's this point where there's a balance between the pulling together and the pushing apart, where the atoms will stay stuck there. And they've made something new by doing this. They've created a water molecule. Hydrogen is an explosive gas. Oxygen is a really explosive gas. But when they bond together, they make the liquid water that can be used to put out fires. It's something completely new that is created by the interactions between these atoms. Even more amazing, I can start to build giant molecules made out of billions of atoms connected together. We call these molecules things like DNA and protein. Again, it's all just positive and negatives interacting. But the DNA and the protein in our cells, because positive and negatives attract, they automatically interact with each other and they can start to accomplish things. They build new molecules, they break apart molecules, they move positives from over here to over there. And they can grow and divide, and thus we have life, purely from positive and negatives interacting. But it's so much more than that. Through the interactions, through all of those pieces working together, we've made something so much bigger than just the collection of its parts. Then, through mistakes, some of these living cells started to make different kinds of living cells, and billions of mistakes later, we have the vast diversity that we see in our world, from giant trees to birds that can fly in the air to you and I. All just positive and negative pieces interacting, and yet so much more than that. I am only a collection of cells. I'm only a collection of molecules and only a collection of atoms, and yet through all those pieces interacting, I am able to stand here and be aware and share this experience with you, and you can hear my experience and share it back with me. This is what Carl Sagan was referring to with the idea that human beings are the universe becoming aware of itself. I'm only a collection of atoms, and yet through those interactions, I am so much more than just a collection of atoms. And if this is not miraculous, I don't know what is. Going back to those themes that I saw in the coming of age program, not the coming of age, sorry, Tower Club program, there's this intuition, I think, that there's this idea continues. And this aligns with our understanding of science. In science, we're trying to find patterns and then apply those patterns to stuff we cannot observe. We extrapolate. So if atoms collect together to make something new in molecules, and molecules collect together to make something new in cells, and cells collect together to make something new in you and I. And at each level, we can see it, through the interactions, we've made something new and something that is more than just a pile of the pieces that it is made of. we could intuit and we can extrapolate that maybe we are also pieces of something bigger. And it seemed to be a common theme in all those major world religions that we studied in 8th grade. This idea that I think we can sense there's something bigger, that we together make something bigger. It is us, it is a part of us, and yet it is beyond us. At each level, we see the whole is bigger than the sum of the parts. And we could play that idea forward, that we are also the parts that make together a bigger whole that is beyond us. Going back to the readings from this morning, the idea in the story from Exodus where God tells Moses, "Tell them I am," I think in some ways could be seen as kind of a dick response to, "Who are you?" But in some ways, I think it's speaking to this sense. I must be honest, I'm not actually all that familiar with Exodus. I chose that story while listening to a story on NPR with a Muslim woman who'd started a blog by the title, "Tell Them I Am," and she was explaining the context for the title of that blog, and I was like, oh, that really resonates with what I want to say. And then I did some research on Wikipedia, and Christopher confirmed this, that actually in the original Hebrew, the word that is used does not have a tense. So where we say I am, the original Hebrew was I am, I was, and I will always be, all wrapped up in one word. This to me is kind of trying to hint at that bigger thing that is us, but is bigger than us. This also resonated with one of my colleagues when I was teaching in New York City. He was very kind and generous and stayed up way too late in the night helping me build a contraption I wanted to use to demonstrate something to my chemistry students. And as we were staying way too late, cutting and gluing to create this thing, we got into some philosophical and theological conversations, and he had grown up Jewish and was a pretty liberal Jew. And one of the things he explained to me is that there are 3 different words in the Hebrew text to refer to what we always say as God, and that one of the words is not pronounceable. The combination of syllables has no word that we can say. So if you're reading the text out loud, you always substitute a different sound in for what is written. And his interpretation of this, and my recollection of this interaction is he kind of made it seem like it was a common interpretation, is that there's something unknowable, unnameable about this idea of something bigger than ourselves. Again, this is reflected in my understanding of chemistry. There are certain things that we know we cannot measure. There are certain things we know we cannot observe. And yet, there's this sense of something bigger out there. And I think here we kind of try to dance around that when we talk about the eternal essence of life or the source of all being. But the rebellious me that came out of coming of age decided, I'm just going to take back the word God. Why does some other group get to define God as this man sitting on a cloud? That's ridiculous. And I can talk about this mysterious thing that is bigger than us and yet is only the collection of us. Or I can just say, when I say God, that's what I'm talking about. When we talk about these positive pieces within atoms, we call them protons. There's nothing special about the name proton. That's just what we call them. So when I'm thinking about this thing, this feeling, this essence that is more than us and yet is only the collection of us, I choose to call it God, because I don't have a better word for it. Back to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, this theme actually comes up there as well. So I mentioned the supercomputer said, you're going to have to build a bigger machine. I can't tell you what the question to life, the universe, and everything is. So give me a lot more millions of years and come back to me and I'll tell you how to build an even bigger machine. And it turns out the instructions that the alien race was left with were instructions for building the Earth. And that Earth was simply a really extra supercomputer that had organic components. And through our lives, through our evolution, through our interactions, we would unveil the question to life, the universe, and everything. Unfortunately, the Earth was destroyed moments before this question was revealed. So again, we see there's some unknowableness. This idea of something bigger is reflected in other religions as well. You can talk about it in the idea of Gaia, that the planet as a whole is an organism, and that we are like the cells, the pieces of that organism. Or the idea that your body is a temple, or that we are the universe in microcosm. One last piece that I want to share is, as I was thinking about this and meditating on this sermon this summer, it started to feel that this whole, this thing that is bigger than us, this earth, this planet, this Gaia, this God that we are all a part of, it feels broken right now. There are senseless shootings, people being shot daily because of easy access to guns, because of inadequate training in response to de-escalation or managing different cultures. The rainforest in Brazil is literally on fire. The UN recently released a report that we are running out of water. Greenland is melting, probably Iceland too. It's all broken. But if this idea, if this feeling, if this essence that there is something bigger than us, that is only made of us, but it is through our interactions that we make the bigger thing, that gives us a lot of power. Going back to the idea that we are the universe in microcosm, if I take care of myself, I am healing the whole. If this skin cell right here on my arm goes crazy, it will make me sick. I could get cancer, it could kill me. But if this skin cell does its job and takes care of itself, it is healing me, it is keeping me healthy. So if I am a piece of this larger whole, by taking care of myself, I can help to heal that larger being. Even more powerful, at each step, whether it's from the molecules to the cells to the multicellular organisms, it's not just the gathering of the pieces that makes the whole more powerful, it's how those pieces interact with each other. This cell may not have an awareness that it is a part of me, but it does interact with the cells around it. There are cells that bring it fresh oxygen. It grows and divides. It has to pass resources back and forth between itself and the cells around it. So it's the interactions that creates the more powerful thing. So I can help heal the more powerful thing by taking care of myself. But even more amazing, we, through our interactions, can help heal the more powerful thing. If we work to take care of each other, then that power is compounded and we can start to heal this broken whole. That, we're going to sing about the Hail the Glorious Golden City. As it says in the song, we need to build that glorious golden city for all our lives, our building stones. So if you'll join me in singing hymn number 140 from the hymnal. by saying, "This is indeed another beautiful day which the Lord hath made. Let us be glad and rejoice in it. Let us count our many blessings, including our ability to be here and gather together through our interactions to make a more glorious city." Amen.